Well, not knowing where we're going to finish, there's a lot at stake, not only being senior night, but we're playing for a league championship, at least a tie, or if not, one team winning it with one game remaining. So there's a lot at stake. It's a very big game against a terrific opponent. That brings a lot of defensive challenges to us. As Napier scored 31 points, their center could be the most improved player in the league. And certainly they have the #1 three-point shooter at the forward position. So they have a lot of weapons that need to be stopped. And it poses a big challenge for us. And just a great afternoon with 4 guys that have just given an incredible amount to our basketball program. We're very excited to honor them.
Coach, not just 4 guys, but 4 guys that maybe nobody knew when they got here. Now many will forget. What does that say about their legacy?
Yeah, I think it just shows you that sometimes it's not always the Wiggins and the Jabari Parkers and the guys that get so much publicity. And none of these guys were heavily recruited. One was a walk-on, and the other 3 were not heavily recruited, and turned out to be a group of guys that won a national championship, multiple Big East championships, now playing for a league title here as well. Back-to-back Final Fours and a national championship. So it just tells you, there are so many different ways to bring a championship contender, and it's exciting to be part of this.
How much has Russ changed you as a coach?
I don't think he's changed me in any way. I think he's made it a lot of fun for me.
You put up with him?
I just think with Russ, he works hard. Like all I ask for is that everybody works hard, plays for the right reasons. And with him, whether it's in every program, whether it was Providence with Dow Wright, whether it was Kentucky with Antoine Walker, everybody's got their peculiarities that you deal with. And with Russ, you just have to give him more latitude at the offensive end.
Russ said he's been underestimated his whole life. How much of that do you think helped motivate him to become this?
Well, when you're in high school and you're 5'10", 5'11" at the time, 135 pounds, there's a reason why people would miss on you. He 135 and being short and small, and then he grew to 6 feet and obviously is now a whopping 165. So.
What do you see from these guys as they go on through life?
Well, this is a special class because they're different. There's although Russ has an ego and Luke has an ego, it's the right type of ego. It's not the ego I call where I always tell them it's ego edges greatness out. They don't have that. They always want to prove something. Luke and Russ want to prove something. Stephen Van Treese and Tim, they're just having a good time playing the game of basketball.
When it comes to the NCAA tournament, some of these guys have seen a real low first-round exit to Morehead State, and then winning a national championship. How do you think they're going to take these different experiences to lead during this March?
I think every experience is unique amongst itself. I think the first-round loss propelled them to do much better the following year, but they also understand sometimes injuries are part of the game. And when Preston Knowles breaks his ankle in the game, it's just part of it. But I think it did fuel them to get better. And then going to a Final Four made them extremely hungry to go a little further the following year.
How much has Russ done the things that you told him he needed to do this year to be
I thought we talked about shot selection. We talked about his improving his assist turnover ratio, his field goal percentage. So all the things we've asked him to do, he's done in a big way.
Do you have a favorite moment with Russ?
Actually, that would be an impossibility. There were so many. Really, there were so many. Just in a given week of practice and and games, and he's just such an interesting character. From late night texts, late night videos, to, you know, he makes me laugh all the time. You know, even coming to me right before the big game at SMU, and everybody's uptight, and he says, "Coach, I'm going to give everything I can, but I'm sick as a dog," and he gives me a big hug, and, you know, I said, "What the hell are you hugging me for if you're sick as a dog?" You know? And then I'm up all night thinking I'm going to throw up. I can't get to sleep.
Rick, you were asked at the beginning of the year if Russ had anything to prove to you, and you said he's given me 2 Final Fours and a championship. He doesn't have anything to prove to me. With that said, did he show you anything this year that you weren't expecting to see out of him, or maybe something that surprised you?
Not really. You know, I expected him to have a great season, and he has. You know, he always makes, I think he makes practices fun all the time. I think he's just a nice human. You know, when you coach a person for 4 years, as I have these 3 guys and then Luke, and not one of them is late, not one of them misses curfew, not one of them misses class. It's kind of an extraordinary experience coaching all 4 of these guys. Never a disciplinary thing to any of them at any point in time. They're always nice to the fans. They're always nice to all of you. They're always courteous to everybody they meet. If you ask them to go to the hospital, they go to the hospital. You know, it's very unusual in this day and age to find 4 unique guys like this.
What do you think?
With what they've done on and off the court, does that make it that much harder to see tomorrow come?
It does, because they've just been great guys to have as, not only to coach, but to have as your friends. They're just great people. You know, and I know the 4 of us will be close for the rest of our, just like Peyton and Gorgie, and we'll all be very close for a long period of time.
You mentioned friends there. Is that a rarity in college basketball for a coach-player friendship like you have with these guys?
No, because I'm still friends with Mark Jackson and Oakley and Ewing, and, you know, my Providence in Kentucky. We're all very close friends.
What did you think you were getting when you got Luke? I mean, how much did you know about him?
Well, Keats was advising him as the Hargraves military where to go, and as I said last night, you know, it was some schools, and even Virginia, and they were talking about, and then when Keats got this job, he said, he never mentioned Louisville. He said, when did this come in? He said, well, I'm the new assistant coach. So I didn't really know what I was getting. I spoke to Jim Larinaga about him, and he sort of told me a little bit about him, but he's turned out to be better than advertised.
Can you speak a little bit about how Tim's developed since he's been here at the program, to, you know, walk on, earn the scholarship, that sort of thing?
Yeah, Tim is another unique guy, because he's a tough kid. Tim is physically tough. He didn't have to physically develop like most walk-ons do. He just came in physically there, and he's worked hard regardless of the situation. They're all very selfless, even though Russ is in first-team All-American. He doesn't act like an All-American, you know. He doesn't want to, although he likes the limelight and really enjoys it, he doesn't act like spoiled in any way at all.
Time for 1 or 2 more.
Russ almost seemed like he was surprised that he's shooting 47% this year. I mean, is it a product of taking better shots, or just maturing maybe and taking better
I don't think he puts himself in a box as much as he used to. He used to put himself into difficult situations where you're going to shoot a low percentage. And, you know, he was in a zone the other night that you know, those shots, he shot from the U at the one point, you know, and you knew when he left it, he was, and his teammates found him. You know, that's what's really good about these guys, is they just look for each other, and you know, I was kidding with Russ yesterday. I said, no, you're not going to go crazy tomorrow night during this game, are you? I said, please. And he said, no. And he said, I definitely won't. I'm working on it right today in practice. I said, Russ, that has nothing to do with the game, working practice. I said, do not go crazy tomorrow night. Just relax and just play the game. And he said, I said, you're not going to cry, are you? And he said, I may. And he looked at me and said, I know you're going to cry when you see me out there.
You've had a lot of success against UConn the last couple of years, last few years. Anything to explain that?
Not really. It's it's not me having success, it's the players having success. I haven't scored a bucket in the 12 years I've been here, and, you know, I just think that we've had great games against them. I think that they've got a great backcourt. We have a great backcourt. They have a center that, as I said earlier, that's really gotten a lot better. Going to be a great one before it's all said and done. They have great shooting. So it's, you know, we play much better on the road than we do at home for some unknown reason. I don't know why. We're really honed in on the road and play some outstanding basketball. So, you know, we went down there. We didn't play great against UConn at UConn. You know, sometimes you break down the film and you think, we really didn't. Now, we played very, very good the other night against SMU, very well, played a good game against Cincinnati. We didn't play great at UConn, so I'm hoping we play much better, even though we did get a victory.
Will you miss not having them in the conference anymore starting next year?
You know, look, I started off very competitive with Jim Calhoun, BU Northeast, and we didn't care for each other very much, and then I became I became friendly with him and with great respect for him and what type of coach he was. You know, at BU Northeastern, you're fighting for page 14 in the Boston Globe, you know, and so it was different back then, little jealousies, but then I had great respect for it. I always said that Talk and him were two greatest building jobs I've seen in my lifetime, of taking a Yankee Conference school and making it into a national champion, and then Talk building something out of the desert into a national champion. So it's remarkable, and Kevin, I think the world of. So to answer your question, yes, we'll miss him, certainly, and I'll miss the Big East, certainly, but they're going to go in their direction, we're going to go in our direction, and probably football played a great role in everything.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Okay.